by welcoming. Okay, I'd like to start by welcoming everyone and acknowledging the land on which we're meeting today, and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, peoples, and pay respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I need to ask you all to, except for Kirsten, to put yourselves on mute, please. We don't need to hear any extra noises. If you have questions, would you please put them in the chat box? But Kirsten has requested that you don't put them in the chat box until after she's completed the activity with you that she sent, or Andrea sent out to you. I also need to thank Andrea. And we're very privileged to have Kirsten Procker speaking to us tonight. This is our final session for this year, for 2021. Kirsten is an international walks judge, and with a bit of luck, if we have time at the end, she'll be able to tell us about some of her international walking experiences. The other thing that I need to request is, would you please adjust it so your camera is working so we can actually see your faces? Thank you. And thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming tonight, and hopefully you come away with a bit more knowledge than you started with. Okay, I just need to share the screen and we'll get started.
What I didn't ask Kirsten was, we're sorry about, I must mute, mustn't I? We're sorry about the delay to this session, but unfortunately Kirsten wasn't well last week. Are you recovered?
Yes, you can hear me now loud and clear. Before, you would have heard the scratchiest thing I've ever heard. And it's nearly back to 100%, maybe 95%, but the voice is back, as you can hear. So if at any point it goes a little bit funny, bear with me. Okay, let's us begin. Okay, I'm just minimizing a few things so I can see my screen, and we will be underway. So thank you, Pam, for that introduction, and thank you everyone for attending this wonderful and best athletic event that there is, race walking. What better photo can we start the presentation off with? Just hoping that the Australian walkers of the future have as much success as Jared had. So off we begin. By the end of this seminar, participants will have a better understanding of the rules and regulations required to officiate at race walking events, from local athletics to international, including the current world athletic rules and their interpretations, the basic rules relating to race walking, the reasons for an athlete being given a yellow paddle or red card, the delineation of the duties and responsibilities of race walking judges, the safety issues for athletes and officials at the event site, the necessity for neatness when recording, the specific rules of competition, and the process for protests and appeals to protect the rights of athletes. The recent changes to World Athletics Handbook were unexpected, as it changed from Rule 230 to now being Technical Rule 54. So apart from changing all the rule numbers, which was massive, World Athletics added the 35-kilometre road walk and the 35,000-metre track walk events, specified the new penalty zone periods for those two events, and corrected a reference error in the rule book. Prior to that, it was all about changing the name of pit lane to penalty zone and making the referee responsible for disqualifying an athlete guilty of a penalty zone infraction. Here is the education pathway, which I'm sure many of you are fully aware of. It's available online through the Athletics Australia Officials Education Scheme and is brilliant. How did you start your race walking education? Well, it doesn't really matter if you've judged one event or no event up to this point, but you're about to start, I'm sure. You need to start judging after you've done an exam and had a little bit of assistance, guidance, as many races as you can, from under nines all the way through to masters. Keep judging different qualities of walkers as well, plus keep up to date with the rules. And that's why I'm sure a few of you are here tonight, which is great. Okay. I'm just having technical difficulties here at the moment. Nothing is working. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Right. Back on track. Here are the references that I've used: the World Athletics Competition Rules, the IAAF Race Walking, a Guide to Judging and Organising, which are both downloadable from the World Athletics website, as well as the Athletics Australia General Rules of Competition, all extremely useful materials. As you can see, lots of officials are required for a race walking event. It's just not the walk judges. Right, we have the specific walk judges, so the chief walk judge, the chief judge's assistant, who is normally only seen or appointed at state, not even state events, at Australian events and Oceania events and international events. We have the recorder and the red card collector, as well as the posting board official. All of the other officials, which are many, many more than the actual walk judges, are essential to run a walk event. So we certainly rely upon a lot of people to make our walk event function. So thanks to all those other officials. As we all know, race walking is an endurance event. The World Athletics Rule governing race walking is now, and I'll say it many times, Technical Rule 54.2 for the actual definition. Okay, race walking is a progression of steps so taken that the walker makes contact with the ground so that no visible to the human eye loss of contact occurs. The advancing leg must be straightened, i.e. not bent at the knee, from the moment of first contact with the ground until the vertical upright position. There are two key components: loss of contact and bent knees. So the first component is loss of contact. The rule is considered to have been broken if the back foot is lifted before the advancing foot reaches the ground. This means that unbroken contact with the ground has not been maintained. Therefore, it is essential that the advancing foot be down on the ground before the rear foot is allowed to lift from the ground. The walk judge must see that this situation occurs at every stride, if only for a fraction of a second. Looking at figure 1, because there's only one row of figures, from position A, B, and C, the athlete actually has one foot on the ground. Unfortunately, when it comes to position D, neither foot is on the ground. Therefore, he's losing contact. Looking at this image demonstrates, in semi-real time, photography at least, an athlete with both feet off the ground. Therefore, losing contact, breaking the rules. As we all know, all judging is done by the human eye and not with any technical aids. In this photo, this is how the press get their sensational shots using technical aids. But technical aids are not used by the walk judges. How many times do we need to say that? I've lost count. Way too many. The other component is bent knees. The definition requires that the advancing leg must be kept straightened from the first point of contact with the ground until the vertical upright position, i.e. 90 degrees to the ground. The advancing leg is the leg that must support the body as the trailing leg leaves the ground. Looking at figure 2, position A, B, C, E, and H. Figure 2 has bent knees. Hopefully we can all see that. I've even circled them. In position D and G, the legs are still bent, but as the advancing foot has not yet made contact with the ground, the rule hasn't been broken. And in position F, just here, you're unable to see the supporting leg. So therefore the judge will give the benefit of the doubt to the walker. Finally, we have a photo on the right. It also shows a bent knee. It's much easier to see if you can imagine a line down the leg of the athlete. Then you can see much easier the fact it is bent. Now, all this happens within seconds, and a walk judge has to become very proficient in observing this. And like I said earlier, the more often you judge, the easier this becomes. Here we have the correct technique. Looking at the figure indicated with a blue arrow, you will see the heel and toe contact during the widest spread of the stride. And the green arrow demonstrates the straight leg as the foot makes contact with the ground. You can see this great technique repeated with every stride the figure makes. It will certainly make walk judges' jobs so much easier if all walkers walk like this. I don't think there'd be a need for us. Okay, the appointed race walking judges shall elect a chief judge if one has not been appointed previously by the organising committee. For major events, this is always done, whereas for local events, we know that judges often have to select a chief judge from amongst themselves. All judges shall act in an individual capacity, and the judgments shall be based on observations made by the human eye. For road races, there should normally be a minimum of 6 to a maximum of 9 judges, including the chief judge. For track races, there should normally be 6 judges, including the chief judge. On the track, a judge should normally take up the position allocated by the chief judge, which presents a clear, uninterrupted view of the competitors. In a track event, the ideal position, well, personally, I like lane 5, but you should never be on the inside of the track where the plinth will impede your view of the athlete's feet. The key danger areas where the athlete is especially likely to be illegal are during the acceleration at the start, while passing another athlete. You can actually see this athlete's feet off the ground, but obviously taken with a camera, so the judge might not be able to see that. Also during the finishing sprint, once again, some athletes' feet are off the ground. I think the second place person there at the London World Championships, and also in the middle of the group. Here's an example of where the chief judge might position the walk judges on a track. Position 6 is usually the chief walk judge. And I do say usually. Sometimes they might be in position 5. But position 1 is where I would put the least experienced walk judge if it was a 3,000 or 5,000 metre race, or even a 1,500 metre race, as the start is in the opposite end and the athletes will have spread out a bit by the time they get around to that judge in position 1, therefore making it easier for a less experienced judge to be able to view the walkers when they're not all on top of each other. Position 3 would actually also be a good position if it was a 10,000 metre race due to the different start line. Chief judges think about these things when putting people out on the track. And if you do end up in position 1, it doesn't mean you're the least experienced judge, but this is a position that is good for a newer judge. Right, for a road event, the judge should, if possible, move to a position where they can clearly see the contact with the surface of the ground or the road. Another good judging position is an angle 45 degrees from the athlete as they are moving towards the judge. The specific number of judges to properly judge the course depends upon the course layout. The road areas that are very important to observe are turning areas. In this case, we've got some very straight legs, especially that Australian. Hill areas, sharp turns, as well as aid and refreshment areas. Often these areas are where athletes do take advantage of the situation. The yellow paddle. When a walk judge is not completely satisfied that the walker is fully complying with the definition of race walking, where possible, they should show the walker a yellow paddle, indicating whatever the offence has been infringed. The yellow paddle is to indicate to the athlete that they are at risk of breaking the rules. It is used to assist the athlete. And that's what we should be doing, assisting the athlete as much as possible with this. An athlete cannot be given a second yellow paddle by the same judge for the same offence. Having shown a yellow paddle to the athlete, the judge shall inform the chief judge of this action after the competition. A yellow paddle will be used always before giving a red card to an athlete, with the following exceptions. An athlete obviously breaks the rules, thus clearly gaining an unfair advantage compared to his opponents. An athlete breaks the rule in the last part of the race where it's too late to show them the yellow paddle, and the circumstances in which the chief judge can use their special powers, which I'll cover shortly. Yellow paddles should be shown to the athletes at shoulder height, clearly indicating the infringement, and the judge should also make eye contact with the athlete, which is what we can see happening in these examples. Now, red cards. If in the opinion of an appointed race walking judge, an athlete who passes within their view does not comply with the contact or knees rules, the race walking judge should issue the red card. Red cards are silent communication, i.e. the race walking judge does not show a red card. The race walking judge writes on a red card and sends it to the chief walk judge or recorder. The rule broken by the athlete is then displayed on the posting board, if one is being used. Athletes identify that they've been given a red card by viewing the posting board and seeing if there is an indication for contact or knees against their race number or bib. There is no connection between the number of times an athlete has received a yellow paddle and the issuing of a red card, no matter what anyone says. Okay, when 3 red cards from 3 different judges have been sent to the chief judge on the same athlete, the athlete is disqualified, and they shall be notified of this disqualification by the chief judge or a chief judge's assistant by showing the athlete a red paddle, like we can see here. The failure to give notification shall not result in the reinstatement of a disqualified athlete. Now, the chief judge has the power to disqualify an athlete in the last 100 metres. Technical rule 54.4.1, when his mode of progression obviously fails to comply with the rule, regardless of the number of previous red cards that have been received on that athlete. An athlete shall be permitted to finish the race under these circumstances. In Australia, only international walk judges or area walk judges can disqualify an athlete under this rule. And in Australia, we have Zoe and myself as international judges, and we have Lisa, Marion, and Renee as area walk judges. So these are the only people that actually can use this rule. Right, for road events, the last 100 metres is marked on the road with a simple bit of tape, just indicating 100 metres from the finish. And on the track, they put a witch's hat to indicate the last 100 metres. Even though we know where the 100 metres is, a cone is put there to indicate where the last 100 metres is. Often the number of judges available at local athletics, interclub, etc. is insufficient. The following guide is used in most situations. Where only one judge, one red card for disqualification. Where there's two judges, two red cards for disqualification. And where there's three or more, three red cards for disqualification. This must be explained to athletes prior to the start if it's different than the normal 3 red cards. Did you know that for an Australian record to be broken, that a minimum of 4 Athletics Australia graded judges, of whom at least 2 judges shall be from the international panel or the area panel or level 3 walk judges? They need to be officiating during the competition and also sign the necessary paperwork. Sometimes this hasn't happened and athletes have been devastated, which is not good at all. Each judge has their own record card, and on the card, the following is entered: the judge's number, and we're encouraging everyone to use the European 7 for all 7s, the signature, the event, the distance, the venue, and the date. When a yellow paddle is given, the following is recorded: the athlete's bib number, the infringement, whether it's knees or contact, time the infringement occurred, should be in 24-hour time. And there is a box to indicate that you have actually informed the athlete of the yellow paddle. So please tick it when you have done so. When a red card is given, the following is required: you need to locate the athlete's bib number and enter the infringement. Record the time, once again, 24-hour time, and the symbol of the offence. We have a variety of walk judges' record cards. Eventually, over time, we feel like we'll end up coming to uniformity, but at the moment, there's still a variety of record cards out there. Right, so recording red cards. When filling out the red card, ensure it is correct. It must be completed legibly. Have your judge's number, have the bib number of the athlete, have the symbol for the infringement, have the time of the infringement. As I've said, in 24-hour time. If there's nothing that you will remember after this, hopefully it will be the fact everything is in 24-hour time. Okay, also have the date and location the event was held, and finally be signed by you. If these are not on the red card, the recorder has to send it back to the judge to have it corrected. As you can see, judges and recorders' handwriting needs to be neat, otherwise the wrong athlete could be disqualified. Please always use the European 7, and I know I've said that a few times now already. We need to make it clear that it's a 7 and not a 1. You can see in this example down here that the second one, there's my cursor, the second one looks a bit, it could be a 7. It looks very similar to this 7. We don't want there to be any upset athletes at all, distraught or anything because of a handwriting error on officials' behalf. So please use the European 7. Interesting fact, the red card doesn't actually need to be red, provided it just says red card on the top of it. I didn't always know that. Okay, now we have an activity. Yes, a little break for a moment. Okay, so everyone will need to find their, I should have reminded you at the beginning. Well, it was mentioned at the beginning. You need to find your 2 pieces of paper that were sent to you. Like I said, it doesn't matter if the red card's not on red paper, it still says red card. Okay, so find these 2 pieces of paper and I will read out the activity to you. So here we go. You are walk judge number 5. You're judging an under 18 men's 5,000 metre race at the Australian Junior Championships in Sydney on the 15th of March, 2021. Yes, there was actually an event. And you've issued 2 yellow paddles to athletes on 4 occasions and sent a red card to the chief judge. Please complete a judge's record card and a red card with the following. There's the yellow paddles and here's the red card details. I'll leave this slide up for for a few minutes so you can complete the paperwork. If you can raise your hand electronically when you finish, that would be excellent. So off you go. Okay, we're getting some hands up now. That's great. Yes, I can see a few hands. I'll just wait till we get a few more. Oh, those few, they're on the first page. There must be quick workers on the first page. Sorry, ladies and gents. I jumped the gun.
No, Kirsten, we all just go to the first page in your view, once we put our hands up. And then you'll see more come through.
Mm-hmm. Yes, normally you would not be writing all of these down all at once. Well, I mean, okay, maybe you could, but normally you wouldn't be writing them all down at once. So we'll give you a few more moments to write those down. Interesting looking faces of concentration I can see as well. Okay, that's looking like a good number of hands up that we have now. So now having a look at your, having done the paperwork as an individual judge or judge number 5, have a think about the things that you did. You looked at my information and then I'm sure you just didn't write it down, boom, 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 boom. So I would ask if some people could go to the chat box and send through some information about what things you had to be aware of when completing the paperwork. Hopefully some people can do that for me. It would be great if you could. So in the chat box. Okay, we can already have some people saying, yes, we had to make European 7s. Excellent. it wasn't in 24-hour time, that's correct. You had to convert that. Sometimes you'll be looking at your watch and it's not always in 24-hour time. So you do have to be able to work that out. I'm sure everyone can do that. Excellent. Okay. What else did people note? Yes, someone saw the time order was different. Well spotted. Right, they often do that in an exam. They give a whole lot of yellow petals, and 9 times out of 10, when you do give a yellow petal, you are giving it in pretty much time order. You might have written down one number and then to look at next time and then go, oh yes, now he does need a yellow petal or a red card. But normally they're pretty much in time order. So good spotted, well spotted. Getting the symbol correct, yes. Sometimes that little squiggle is a little squiggle that doesn't look so much like a little squiggle, as long as it's totally different from that knees. That's always helpful. 79 had 2 infringements. Yes, well spotted, Lorraine. And it's legal because the first, well, one was for knees, one was for contact. Excellent. And what else was there? Okay, well, obviously everyone wrote the details, the event details and distance, date, and location, and that's a normal thing. But those sorts of details, so the distance and the location and judge number, right, and the location, right, those details are the details that judges, when they actually come to an event, you might see a whole lot of walk judges writing in their books early on. They're actually filling in those details because those details stay the same. So to get those written down before the event starts makes for an easier start, because once you're watching and you're looking at the walkers coming by all the time, suddenly you'll have written out 2 or 3 red cards. And if you haven't written that down prior to the event starting, you go to give this to the red card collector and then go, oh no, I forgot to put those details, and delaying getting the red cards back to the posting board operator or to the recorder. So if those details can be entered prior to the event starting, it makes for a much quicker return of the red cards so that the athletes can actually know who's got a red card. So excellent. Thank you everyone for participating in that. So looking at my next slide, when the screen decides to move forward. Here we go. There we go. We will now have, yours should be very similar to mine, except for the one minor detail, and that would be, if I could hear you say, and that would be the signature, right? Obviously everyone puts in their own signature. So well done. Thank you very much for filling in those red cards, and for those that, and the record cards, and for those that it was their first time, hopefully it won't be your last time. Right. Now, moving on, some golden rules. The golden rules of safety. You need to check that the environment is safe and free of hazards, e.g. dogs, odours, smells, items on the ground. Ensure that the site surface is safe, no matter where you are, if you're out on the road or you're actually on the track. Ensure that participants are adequately supervised whilst under your direction. Ensure the roads used for the competition are closed to motorised traffic in all directions, and always provide clear instruction to officials and athletes. Athletics can be a dangerous sport, so always consider the safety elements required for the event you're officiating at and how it might relate to the athletes and officials. Is it important that, it's important that officials, if they see an issue, they tell someone and they use their initiative. Make sure you know where the first aid is located and how to make contact with first aid if an issue does occur. Extremely important. Right, here's the judge's summary sheet. If you're the recorder, this is what you're required to do. Let's magnify it a bit. Right, the judge's name must be entered above the correct number, judges, or the correct number for judges. In this case, it's number 4. And then judge's name is me, Kirsten. Okay, with yellow petals, the only the time was given is entered. Sorry, David Cash. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
How do I talk on this?
Are we okay?
Hi.
Hi. Are you able to hear me now? Okay, I'll continue. With the yellow petals, only the time it was given is entered, as it needs to be placed in the appropriate column regarding knees or contact. In this case, it's for contact at 14:23. In the RC column, which means red card, the block for the offence is divided into 2, as you can see here. The infringement time is on the top. Below is the symbol of the infringement. Most summary sheets in Australia are still completed using pen and paper. So please circle the red cards, as it makes it easier to see. Once again, I'll always say it, 24-hour time, European 7, and accuracy is essential along with neatness. Okay, moving on to the Chief Judge, responsibilities and duties before the event. First of all, they need to ascertain if any judge has an interest in the event, e.g. a parent or a coach. If this is the case and it's of concern, the judge should be removed from the judging panel, therefore avoiding any thoughts of potential favouritism, but allocated another officiating position, as we know there are many. Never turn away a judge and say, we don't need you, we just need you to do something other than judging today. Survey the course and decide the appropriate positions for the judges, whether there is a cliff or a lake that makes it hard for a judge to have the option to step backwards or not, to view the walkers at a slightly different angle. Judges should be evenly spread to cover the whole course or the track, but it's obviously much easier on the track as there's less obstacles, only maybe a few hurdles. Ensure the appropriate paddles, red cards, judges' record cards, judging summary sheets. Judging summary sheets, markers, stationery and bicycle for collectors of red cards are available. Prepare a map of the course indicating the judging positions and other infrastructure, including posting boards, refreshment areas, medical, etc. At international events, you should always conduct a pre-race meeting. Locally, this isn't always possible, as you're often at another event, but the ideal situation is to welcome and introduce the walk judges to the recorders, red card collectors and chief judges' assistants if they're appointed. Assign the judges to their respective judging areas, including assigning an identifying number or letter to each judge. Explain the judging procedure to be used during the race. Check all the necessary stationery. Issue all judges with previously organised judging equipment. Provide the map of the course. Mention potential areas that are important to observe for judges on the course. And ensure that walk judges have equipment to cater for different weather conditions, plus hydration. Right? Make sure they've got their water bottle, their hat, their sunscreen, their jacket, a poncho. Sometimes they'll forget these things. They're out on the course, they'll be more concentrated on the fact that they're going to get wet than the fact that there's the athlete that's off the ground. Try and avoid or eliminate that whole problem. Right, and the Chief Judge will synchronise the judges' watches to the official time. And finally, the Chief Judge will hand to the recorder the judging summary sheets. Right, the Chief Judge will, during the event, well, in Australia, they shall be allowed to act as a race walking judge during all events. Internationally, they don't, they sit back, they work with the recorder. But in Australia, we have 6 judges on the track, including the Chief Judge. So they'll also work closely with the recorder. This is internationally to ensure that all red cards are completed and recorded correctly. This job can be allocated to a chief judge's assistant in Australia. If the chief judge has a World Race Walking Area Level 4 qualification or a Level 5 qualification, they have the power to disqualify an athlete in the last 100 metres. We've mentioned that. Okay, the athlete is allowed to finish the race and will be notified that they've been disqualified after. Right, the chief judge will also notify athletes of their disqualification as soon as possible after verifying the 3 separate red cards from 3 separate judges have been received during the race, if not already notified by the chief judge's assistant. If impractical, the disqualification shall be given as soon as practical after the competitor has finished. Ensure the posting board is used correctly during the race. The 3rd red card can be posted before the athlete has been informed of their disqualification. Right, the chief judge after the event will check the accuracy of and sign the judging summary sheet and advise the referee of any disqualifications to ensure that the official results are correct. The referee then informs the competition director of any disqualifications. The chief will then ensure the referee signs the judging summary sheet and it is actually attached to the results. Right, they will notify or have the chief judge's assistant notify any athlete of their disqualification, either due to 3 red cards or the 100-metre rule. They'll conduct a post-race meeting of the judging panel, referee, posting board official, recorders, chief judge assistants, red card collectors to review the race, present the summary sheets for analysis and discuss any problems. And finally, they will send a report to the governing body. This is only done at major international competitions, usually. Right, the duties and responsibilities of the chief judge's assistant. Right, their job is to assist with the notification of disqualifications only and shall never act as a race walking judge. 2 or more can be appointed to an event and they are assigned by the chief judge to strategic positions on the course and are to ensure they are in constant communication with the chief judge and the recorder during the race. And yes, finally, they don't actually need to be a qualified walk judge either, but often they are. Duties and responsibilities of the recorder. Right, they should be available at least 1 hour prior to the scheduled start. Right, they can either accompany the chief judge or remain where stationed by the chief judge. They collect all the judges' red cards and record the information on the judging summary sheet during the race if the red cards are completed correctly. If they're not, they are returned to the walk judge for correction via the red card collector. Right, they inform the chief judge when a competitor has received 3 red cards for disqualification from 3 separate judges and hand the 3 red cards to the chief judge to confirm. If a posting board is being used, the recorder works in conjunction with the posting board official to inform the official of an athlete's number and infringement to display on the posting board. The judging summary sheet is the official score sheet of the race, so accuracy is essential. The recorder is normally a qualified walk judge, but does not have to be. After the race, all walk judges' record cards are collected, checked for correct red cards. Then the yellow paddles are entered onto the summary sheet. The sheet is finally signed by the chief judge, the recorder and the referee, and as I mentioned before, added to the official results of the race. It's certainly a big job being a recorder, and this person needs to be extremely accurate in what they do. But certainly don't let that put you off from being a recorder. It's an essential part of becoming a walk judge. Posting board. 1 or more posting boards shall be placed on the course. The boards keep athletes informed about the number of red cards that have been sent to the chief judge for each athlete. They are used for races of 5 kilometres or more. They can only be used on a lap course or a track where the board can be placed in such a position that all athletes can easily see and read what's on it each time they pass. The symbol of each infringement should be indicated on the posting board. The posting board official will work closely with the recorder to keep the posting board up to date. In compliance with World Athletics rules, the posting board shall be used at all Australian race walking championships of 5 kilometres and longer. For all other levels of competition, the use of posting board is optional. Whilst the use of a posting board is strongly recommended as it assists the walkers, the failure to provide it will not invalidate an event or the action of the judges. As you can see in the photos of posting boards, on the right there are different types used, from basic to ones with pre-printed symbols and even pre-printed numbers. And there we go, pre-printed numbers. Here we have an electronic posting board and accompanying keypad, otherwise known as a handheld device, which is used for the transmission of red card details to the recorder and the posting board. Each judge internationally has their own secretary, like this man in red with a red cap. He enters the red card details into the keypad, and that is electronically sent to the recorder and the posting board. If you've been to the Australian and Oceania 20 kilometre championships in Adelaide recently, they've used a similar system there. If this system is not used, the chief judge shall advise the referee of all of the red cards and disqualifications issued immediately after the end of the event. Duties and responsibilities of the walk judges. To attend a pre-race meeting and elect a chief judge, if not otherwise decided. To be available at least 1 hour prior to the scheduled start. To follow the instructions received by the chief judge. Be in their judging position prior to the commencement of the event, ensuring they have all the required equipment. Sometimes yellow paddles get mixed up and you might find out to your dismay that you've actually got 2 paddles that are the same. Please always check you have the right equipment before you get out on the course or on the track. Right, the job is to yellow paddle an athlete who is in danger of breaking the rules and to record that yellow paddle. To issue a red card on any athlete who is breaking the rules, record that and send it via the red card collector to the chief judge or the recorder. To complete the walk judge's record card accurately and pass it to the chief judge or recorder at the conclusion of the race. To attend a post-race meeting to answer any questions from the chief judge, view the summary sheet and discuss any problems. And finally, to return all of the equipment to the organising group. The best advice I was given when I was a newer judge was to be decisive when making up my mind about an athlete's mode of progression. Always act in an individual capacity and not be influenced by anyone outside the field of play. As well as to get out there and judge as often as I could with as many different age ranges and abilities as I could, as it all helps to make you a better judge. And that's what we all want to become. Well, it should be what we all want to become, better judges. Right, now, all officials need to be proactive. So self-preparation, you need to check, is your bag packed with all the necessary equipment, stationery, wet, warm, whether clothes, sunscreen, water, hat, watch. At the event, when you're at the venue, on the track, on the course, can you see anything that is going to hamper an athlete? At the end of the event, have you completed all the necessary forms? And once again, have you handed all the equipment back that you were given? be proactive at all times. Right, the penalty zone. The penalty zone shall be used for any race where the applicable regulations for the competition so provide, and may be used for other races as determined by the relevant organising bodies. The penalty zone set up for track events should be located in the final straight in lanes 5 to 7, close to the 80-metre start line and after the posting board when moving towards the finish line. It shall have one entrance and one exit at opposite ends. Excuse me, at opposite ends, both of the same size, shown by these red stars. Yeah, and be a maximum of 10 metres in length. The width can vary, but should allow up to 5 athletes at the same time. Small barriers or cones should be used to clearly identify the penalty area. The athlete is free to stop or continue moving inside the penalty area. However, there should be no benches and no access to refreshments, drinking, sponging, or other kinds of assistance. But communication with the coaches is allowed, provided the coach stays out of the field of play. Organisers do take into consideration weather conditions. As at the World Championships in Doha for the second walk, they put a portaloo into the penalty zone. As during the first event, an athlete went into the penalty zone and needed the bathroom, but nothing was available, and he had to make good of a bad situation. So things are taken into account, but it's obviously better if they're more prepared. Okay, the setup for road events should be similar, though compatible with existing space constraints. Here are some real-life penalty zones. As you can see, there are cones and flags being used to clearly identify the penalty zones, and they have clearly visible entry and exit areas. Certainly a lot of cones in both of those. Right, additional officials are required when a penalty zone is being used. There should be enough red card collectors to adequately cover the course to ensure the fastest possible delivery of red cards to the recorder. One official and one assistant will be required to manage the operation of the penalty zone, in charge of the athlete's entry and exit, plus the control of the penalty time. Right, and we also need one chief judge's assistant to help the chief judge communicate the penalty times to the athletes concerned, especially in the last laps. Here's an athlete, excuse me, about to leave the penalty zone, and the track official who has been timing how long the athlete has to stay in the penalty zone. Off they go. Judging. World Athletics Race Walking Rule, Technical Rule 54 must be applied when with the following adaptations. If an athlete receives 3 red cards, they must receive a communication from the chief judge or the assistant showing them a paddle with a time penalty on both sides. And the athlete must stop in the penalty zone at the first opportunity. Depending on the race distance, the following times shall apply. Now, it's important to note there cannot be a penalty zone used for races less than 5,000 metres. We don't change the time, make the time smaller or anything. There's just none used for 5,000 metres. Sorry, less than 5,000 metres. The time penalty starts as soon as the athlete enters the penalty zone. The athlete shall be shown an appropriate paddle notifying them when 10 seconds remain on the penalty. And an athlete who fails to enter the penalty zone when required to do so, or fails to remain there for the applicable period, shall be disqualified by the referee. The athlete is not judged in the penalty zone. After the time penalty, following the instructions of the official in charge of the penalty zone, the athlete shall re-enter the event. If an athlete receives a 3rd red card at the late stage of a race and it's not possible for the chief judge or his assistant to notify the athlete that he must enter penalty zone, The athlete shall finish the race and the referee shall add the time penalty to their finishing time and adjust the finishing order as necessary. If an athlete receives an additional red card from a judge other than the ones who previously sent a red card, he shall be disqualified and the chief judge or his assistant must notify the disqualification as soon as possible. This is done by showing the athlete the red paddle. Yeah. If an athlete receives 4 or more red cards before stopping in the penalty zone, the athlete shall be disqualified and the chief judge or his assistant must notify the disqualification as soon as possible. The chief walk judge maintains the power to immediately disqualify an athlete in the last 100 meters of a race. No time penalty will save an athlete if this happens. In track races, an athlete who is disqualified shall immediately leave the track, and in road races shall immediately after being disqualified remove the distinguishing bibs and leave the course. Any disqualified athlete who fails to leave the course or track or comply with the directions given to enter and remain for the required period shall be liable to further disciplinary action. Right, let's just take a pause. Can everyone stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. I know that my legs need to be woken up. The rest of me is certainly awake, but my legs need a little stretch. So let's do that one more time. Stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. Thank you for those people participating. Right, here's a completed electronic summary sheet that doesn't have the red card circle because it's electronic. So you can see the judges' names are at the top. And here's my laser pointer. So here we have some judges' names at the top. We've got Kirsten, Daniel, Manchin, Marianne, and Candido. Right, we also have their judging numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And because this is an international event, we only have 5 judges on the track. Right, we have the athlete numbers down the left-hand side. And if you've got a nice big screen, you can also see that the athletes' names have been pre-entered onto the summary sheet. Okay, so let's have a look at athlete number 194. Let's make that more obvious, if that's obvious. Okay, 4 judges actually gave him a yellow paddle for knees. So let's have a look. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 yellow paddles for knees and 1 yellow paddle for loss of contact. Right, this should have slowed the athlete down, but unfortunately not in this case, as he then received a red card for loss of contact at 14:35. Here we are. And then 2 more red cards for bent knees at 14:38. There's my mouse at 14:38 and 14:41. Right, what should have happened then? He immediately ended up in the penalty zone. The time in the penalty zone is supposed to be for the athlete to reflect upon his red cards and change, however so slightly, the way he was competing. Okay, unfortunately, after his 30 seconds in the penalty zone, because this is a 5,000 meter event, 30 seconds after, sorry, 30 seconds of thinking time, he then came out, and unfortunately you will see at 14:41, he received his at 14:43, he received his 4th red card, which was from obviously one of the judges who had not previously given him a red card, right? This resulted in disqualification. So this wonderful rule that was in place, unfortunately, did not save this athlete from being disqualified. Unfortunate, athletes still do get disqualified even with the penalty zone in place. Okay, you'll notice on this electronic summary sheet that there are certainly a lot of totals of numbers down the bottom, and these are all automatically updated on the system. It's not like someone's actually having to go down there and count them each time. It's on the system. It's not using Excel, although in Australia, that's how we use it. We've got it sitting in Excel ready to go. This is actually from a fully automated system for the Youth Olympics, and it was fully automated. So those came in on the keypads, came straight into the actual system, and was not needing anyone to do anything other than to look at it, which was interesting. Right, now, the start of the race. The races shall be started by the firing of a gun, cannon, air horn, or like device. The commands and procedure for races longer than 400 meters shall be used. In races which include a large number of athletes, 5-minute, 3-minute, and 1-minute warnings before the start of the race shall be given. On the command, on your marks, the athletes shall assemble on the start line in the manner determined by the organisers. The starters shall ensure that no athlete has their foot or any part of their body touching the start line or the ground in front of it, and then they shall actually start the race. Some more items for safety. Excuse me. The organisers, as we know, shall ensure the safety of athletes and officials. They shall ensure that the roads are used for competition, are closed to motorised traffic in all directions. But the one hazard that is there is for the media. At international events, you need to be aware of the cameraman on the motorbike following the athletes, and also there's often more than one, if not 2 or 3 motorbikes. You can see at least 2 in this photo. Judges need to be aware of their total surroundings constantly, not just the walkers. Right, now there's a difference between drinking, sponging, and refreshment stations. Drinking and sponging stations are where water only can be given or taken by athletes, whereas refreshment stations allow anything to be given to athletes, like energy drinks, fruit, anything that's actually legal. So at this point, I'll have a glass of water. Water and other suitable refreshments shall be available at the start and finish of all races. For all races of 5 kilometres or longer, up to and including 10 kilometres, water only drinking sponging stations shall be provided at suitable intervals if weather conditions warrant it. Note, mist stations may also be arranged when considered appropriate under certain organisational and climatic conditions, as they were here in London. For all events longer than 10 kilometres, refreshment stations shall be provided every lap. In addition, drinking sponging stations shall be placed approximately midway between the refreshment stations, or more frequently if weather conditions warranted. Refreshments may be provided by either the organisers or the athlete, and they shall be placed at the station so that they're easily accessible to, or may be put by authorised persons into the hands of the athletes. Refreshments provided by the athletes shall be kept under the supervision of officials designated by the organisers from the moment that the refreshments are delivered by the athletes or their representatives. Those officials shall ensure that the refreshments are not altered or tampered with in any way. Authorised persons may not enter the course nor obstruct any athlete. They may hand the refreshment to the athlete either from behind or from a position no more than 1 metre to the side, but not in front of the table. The photo on the right was taken at the World Championships in Doha, where they had a lovely blue ribbon as well as a witch's hat to stop anyone entering the course. At international competitions, which you can see here in the photos, a maximum of 2 officials per member may be stationed at any one time behind the table. No official or authorised person shall, under any circumstances, move beside an athlete while they are taking refreshments or water. Looking at the photo on the left, it was made very obvious here with a big yellow banner that no one should enter the course at all. For local events and Australian championships, sufficient water refreshment stations need to be put out. However, you could have more than 2 people behind the table as they're representing different clubs or states. An athlete may, at any time, carry water or refreshments by hand or attached to their body, provided it was carried from the start or collected or received at an official station. An athlete who receives or collects anything from a place other than the official stations, except where provided for medical reasons, or takes a refreshment of another athlete, should, for a first offence, be warned by the referee, normally by showing a yellow card. For a second offence, the referee shall disqualify the athlete, normally by showing a red card. The athlete shall then immediately leave the course. Interesting to note, an athlete may receive from or pass to another athlete refreshment, water or sponges. However, any continuous support from an athlete to one or more athletes may be regarded as unfair assistance, and warnings and/or disqualifications may be applied. Oh, there I am judging in the background. This was very late at night, and you can barely tell it was me. Okay, road courses. The circuit shall be no shorter than 1 kilometre and no longer than 2 kilometres. For events that start and finish in the stadium, the circuit should be located as close as possible to the stadium. Here's an example of a 2 kilometre lap course with a start and finish outside the stadium. And yeah, that was the London Olympics. And here's a 2 kilometre course with a start outside and the finish inside the stadium. Now, it's currently listed for the 2022 World Championships in Oregon to be a 1 kilometre looped course for both the 20 and the 35 kilometre races. So that will certainly make for a busy course with a lot of turns, hoping the athletes are well trained on their turns. Okay, right. Leaving the track or course. In track events up to 20,000 metres, an athlete, after voluntarily leaving the track, shall not be allowed to continue in the race. They shall be recorded as not finishing the event with a DNF. Should the athlete attempt to re-enter the race, they actually will be disqualified by the referee and recorded as a DQ. Now, in road events of 20 kilometres or more, it's different, as an athlete may leave the road with a permission and under the supervision of an official, provided that by going off course, they do not lessen the distance to be covered. But if the referee is satisfied on the report of a judge or an umpire that an athlete has left the marked course, thereby shortening the distance, they shall actually be disqualified. Right, we have some track rules relating to race walking. And if you're contemplating sitting an exam, these rules are essential for you to know. So we'll briefly go over them now. Right. Unsporting or improper manner. The track or out of stadium referee shall have the authority to warn or exclude from competition any athlete guilty of acting in an unsporting or improper manner. Warnings may be indicated to the athlete by showing a yellow card. The exclusion by showing a red card. Warnings and exclusions shall be entered on the result card and communicated to the competition secretary and to the other referees. Reference shall be made in the official results as to the World Athletics rule, which has been infringed. And this is carried throughout the competition by the athlete, not physically, obviously. Right, clothing. Clothing worn by athletes during the competition must be clean, not be objectionable, not be transparent, even when wet, not worn in a way so as to impede the view of the officials. The knees should not be covered. Also, it needs to comply with any regulations set by the controlling body or the meeting organisers. Shoes, the more recent rule. Until further notice, unless specifically agreed by World Athletics in writing, any shoe used in competition must not contain more than one rigid plate or blade made from carbon fiber or another material with similar properties or producing similar effects, whether that plate runs the full length of the shoe or any part of the length of the shoe, and must have a sole with a maximum thickness of 40 millimeters for all race walking events. The current shoe compliance list was last published on the 14th of May 2021. Not sure when the next one will come out, but the council will review the entire rule by the end of this year. Assistance to athletes. Slightly mentioned before, but an athlete shall retire at once from an event if ordered to do so by the medical delegate or a member of the official medical staff. Any athlete giving or receiving assistance from within the competition area during an event shall be cautioned by the referee and warned that for any repetition, they will be disqualified from that event. So what's not permitted? Pacing by athletes not in the event, pacing by athletes about to be lapped or who have been lapped, tights or similar over the athlete's knees, use of any technical device in the competition area, first aid, massage during the event by any doctor other than those appointed by the organising committee, and provision of advice or other support by any official not related to or required by their specific role. Right. Here in the photo, we have an athlete who's being lapped by another athlete. So that would certainly be, it could be pacing by athletes. It's up to the referee. It's his decision solely. Well, not solely. Right, why would an athlete protest and what would they do? An athlete would make a verbal protest immediately or within 30 minutes of the official announcement of the amended result of an event arising from the decision made by the referee. The organisers must arrange to keep a record of the time of each result announcement. So if it is upheld, everything's fine. If it's disallowed, well, then the next process happens. An appeal to the jury of appeal must be made within 30 minutes. It shall be in writing, signed by the athlete, by someone acting on his behalf, or by an official representative of a team, and shall be accompanied by a deposit of an amount as stipulated by the organising committee, which will be forfeited if the appeal is not allowed. Note, the relevant referee shall, after their decision on the protest, immediately inform the Technical Information Centre, TIC, of the time of the decision. If the referee was unable to communicate this orally to the relevant teams or athletes, the official time of the announcement will be that of posting of the amended result or decision at the TIC. Disqualification by a referee. In summary, in track races, an athlete who is disqualified shall immediately leave the course. In road races, an athlete who is disqualified shall immediately leave the course and remove the distinguishing bibs. The referee may give the athlete a warning by showing a yellow card or exclusion by showing a red card. Warnings or exclusions should be shown on the result sheets and the competition director informed. Any disqualified athlete who fails to leave the course or track or comply with the directions under the rules to enter and remain for the required period in the penalty zone may be liable to further disciplinary action in accordance with Competition Rule 18.5 and Technical Rule 7.2. Judging the finish. The rules for determining the order in which the athletes finish are the same whether manual or photo finish judging is being used. The judges shall place the athletes in the order in which any part of the athlete's torso reaches the vertical plane of the nearer edge of the finish line. The torso is defined as being the body of the athlete, apart from the head, neck, arms, legs, hands, or feet. And here we have a lovely picture from Photo Finish showing us the point where the athlete would be touching that line. Timekeeping. There are 3 officially recognised forms of timekeeping. Hand timing, taken by timekeepers using manually operated digital timers. Fully automatic timing, taken from a Photo Finish system. Chip timing, for outside events only, taken from a transponder timing system. Timekeepers shall be appointed as follows. For hand timings, 1 chief timekeeper and sufficient timekeepers to take each required time, and for fat or chip timing, 1 chief and at least 2 assistants. Right, here we are. We're at the end. I'm certainly hoping you've enjoyed this seminar and will continue your interest in race walk judging, as 90% of all walk judges have either race walked themselves or had children who have race walked. We have a duty to keep this successful medal-winning event increasing in popularity into the future. Right, so I just want a little indication by people putting their hand up. Number 1, if you were a previous walker or a current walker, or whether you've had children that have been race walking. Could people go to the chat box now and just raise their hand? Oh, sorry, not to the chat box. Can you just raise your hand if you're actually a race walker or you've had children involved with race walking? Just want to do a quick little survey of the people that we have here, but in general, so it can just add to my knowledge as well. As internationally, there's only 1 judge that I'm aware of that wasn't actually involved with race walking or at all. So everyone, okay, there's 1 person, no. If you can't do it digitally, put your hand up so it will be quicker if you want to just put your hand up. There's 1 person, 2 people, 3, well, I can only see the top of Bernie's head. Bernie, are you a race walker or have had children race walking? No? Thank you, Lisa. Okay. Yes, we've got yes, Carolyn, Joe, Lorraine. Oh, sorry, Joe's a no. That's 3. Lorraine's a no. 4. Maureen's a no. 5. Margaret's disappeared. No, 6. Okay, so in this group of people, and all these other people are blank, so I can't tell. I would say half would be half. That's a good estimate. Half of the people doing this one. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Di. I can't see Chris. Thank you very much, everyone. Now, I just wanted to do just a quick general survey to find out what the numbers were here. But yeah, I suppose internationally, you think everyone has been a walker themselves or at least had children involved with it. But yeah, 1 person out of a group of currently 20 people I'm aware of had nothing to do with walking prior to becoming a walk judge. So thank you for that information. Okay, so have there been any questions that have come through, Pam, whilst I've been giving the seminar?
Yes, there was one very early in the piece from Kathleen Marsh. Kathleen, do you still want to ask that question? I'm sorry, I didn't make a note of what you asked, only that you'd asked a question. I am sorry.
Okay, thanks, Pam. Thank you, Kirsten. My question was related to the race judge record sheet, where we have our judge number, our signature, the event and everything. Should it also include a space where the judge's name can be printed? Because sometimes people just put a squiggle for their signature and you don't really know who it was if you haven't recorded the judge number against the person, for example.
Yeah, well, great minds obviously think alike, because in the revision of these red cards, that was the one thing that was on the list that I was sending through to actually say it would make life easier. because someone else might end up with this sheet, like the referee, and he would know who that person was that was down at, couldn't identify their signature, hadn't seen their signature before. It does make it easier if it actually is printed as well. So that's for the revision of these red cards. So well done.
And there was Renee asked a question. No?
Yes, sorry, I just missed the rules around the Australian records. Can you repeat them?
Okay, so for my information, they currently need 4 Athletics Australia qualified officials. So obviously an international official is listed as an Australian Athletics Australia official. So it said 2 area and 1 level 3 graded judge and 1 international.
No, we're not muted. Oh.
Do you have some information that is different than that?
No, so can you just confirm that? So it's, I think did you not originally say it was 2 level 3 or above?
No, let's just flip back to, can I get back there quickly? No, I can't get back there quickly. I'll come back to you when I just pull it off screen.
Great, thanks.
Lisa Colhoun had a question. Lisa?
No, it was Ian. It's the other half.
Sorry, Ian.
That's okay. Kirsten, where an athlete doesn't comply with the rules relating to staying in the penalty zone, that is not going in early or going early or what have you, what rule is the referee relying on to disqualify the athlete in that situation, please?
So the athlete leaving soon, too soon, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I had the number up on the screen earlier, and the number okay, I'll just clarify the one with Renee first, and then I'll come back to that one. So just through here to find that spot. Oops. Here we have the Australian records here, a minimum of 4 Athletics Australia graded judges, of whom at least 2 judges shall be from the international panel or area panel and or level 3 walk judge. Okay, does that satisfy, is that what you're thinking, Renee?
Yeah, so it's 2 level 3 or above.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, and question from Ian about the the referee disqualifying someone because they haven't stayed in the penalty zone for the required amount of time. Let's see, here we go. Disqualification. Okay. Here we have, so competition rule 18.5 and technical rule 7.2.
Oh. Thank you.
Okay, excellent.
Are there any further questions? A deafening silence there. Oh, wait a moment. Here we are. Helen Toyne has a question. Would there be a particular meat classification? Oops, it's gone. Sorry. Helen, you have a question?
Pam, the question was, would there be a particular meat classification where the level 2 or 3 or above would always be there?
Thanks, Andrea.
Right, well, definitely at Australian Championships, we do have, we always have.
Sorry, I found my, so my question was, with the requirement for 2 level 3 judges, is there a particular level of meat where there's always expected to be that number of judges at that level? Or it's like, you know, so they have different, I'm a bit new to all this, but they have different levels of meat, and I just wondered if there's a standard, you know, for example, if you're at a particular state championships, or is there a sort of standard level of judging that's required at different types of meats?
Right, well, definitely at Australian Championships, we always have any record would be able to be broken because of the level of judges that we have. But when it comes to state events, it's up to your individual states to be able to get the correct number of judges. Normally, if an athlete is wanting to break a record at a state event, they've spoken to the organisers prior, and the chief judges done their utmost job to get the adequate number of judges there. But at all Australian Championships, any records can be broken, and obviously anything like the Oceania meets in Adelaide that we have, and other road races always have the adequate number of judges, definitely. So local events definitely would be very challenging, but that would have to be something that the athlete would organise through the organisers for that specific event.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Peter Grant, you had a comment about the rule.
Yes, where are we? In TR 54.7.3, it says an athlete who fails to enter the penalty zone when required to do so or remain there for the applicable period shall be disqualified by the referee. So I think 54.7.3 is an applicable rule reference.
Thank you.
Yes, you're certainly correct there, and those other ones there would be listed as well. Yes, there we have. Sorry, I put the lovely picture I've got on the screen over it here. We have it listed up here as well.
Sorry, Kirsten, just pop your microphone down. It's a little bit hard to hear you.
Sorry, when I changed it from holding it down low, I've now.
Perfect.
Thank you for that reminder. Right. Yeah, so Ian, sorry, 54.7.3 is the first part, and then the further disciplinary action is in accordance with CR 18.5 and TR 7.2. Thank you for that, Peter.
Do we have any further questions? Well, Kirsten, if your voice is going to hold up, would you like to tell us a bit about a couple of your experiences as an international judge at some of these overseas meetings you've been to?
Yes, I can. Okay, so obviously I haven't always been an international walk judge. So basically one day out of the blue, I got an email inviting me to London to attend the IAAF International Race Walking Judges examination and seminars. And that involved verbal, written and video examinations. And that was pretty intense. And I was fortunate to be there with Zoe. And we were both fortunate to be in the top 25 out of 70 who were appointed to the panel back in 2015. And both of us have been on the panel in a 4-year period since then. So we've now in our second 4-year period. So during that time, I've been fortunate to be invited to a range of different events. The first international event was actually IAAF international event was actually the race walking teams championships in Italy, and that was an extremely interesting event. It was in Rome, and it actually started only 100 meters away from the actual Colosseum. And it was a weird day because the day before it had rained, and we're talking about summer, but it had rained. And the concern was that they're starting off actually on cobblestones. What are we going to do if it actually rains with the walkers and contact, and well, trying to keep contact with the ground and being on uneven surface to start with? Now, I thought that sort of thing would have been taken into consideration no matter what at such a high level event, for them to have this last minute sort of drama occur out of the blue, so to speak. And I thought those sorts of things were just things that happened to us here in Australia, but they obviously happen everywhere. And no competition. Well, competitions can be without that sort of drama, but at that late stage, the day before the event, they were contemplating moving the start of the race to a slightly different angle to where they had it already measured and coned off and set up to go. So things do happen that challenge every organising committee. So no one throughout the world is different than we are at home, which in some sense is sort of satisfying in one way. It's yeah, so I've had the chance to go to the under-20 championships in Finland, which was now a totally different event as well. When we go to an athletic track, we go to a track, they're normally in a place that isn't that busy. Whereas in Finland, it was right in the middle of town. Literally, there were shops like underneath, like in the grandstand, basically. And there was like even not a bar because it's part of the fixtures, but a bar because it was just, that's where the bar was. It actually looked out over the 100-meter start. So it was a totally different sense of athletics at that event. Not everyone was totally involved with the actual, oh, we know who this person is and who that person is and that sort of thing. It was just like a general sense of, we want to be involved with this international event. It's great, it's here. Let's come down and see it and be involved. And that to me was a totally different experience, because normally we just get at athletics events, we get people involved with athletics and that like athletics, not just the general public. And for that event, yeah, there was the general public, and it was great. So I've also had a chance to go, or to be invited to China for some of their national events, which I never thought I'd end up in China. It's and just the number of people that they have that are there to volunteer. We find it so hard to get volunteers, and this was my chance to find out, okay, we know China has a lot of people, but what makes them want to volunteer? And I actually had a chance to speak to we were assigned a translator each, which was great. So you could sort of ask them any questions. Like, it wasn't an official Chinese Athletic Association translator. It was just a regular university fellow who was being assigned to one of these walk judging people to help them. And so I was able to ask a whole range of questions. But the main thing that I wanted to know is, okay, why or how are you getting all these people? And it was young people that were there volunteering. And I said, how did they do it? And the first thing he said, oh, that's my friend over there. He's still volunteering. And I said, oh, that's a bit strange. He said, oh, we've got to do so many hours of volunteering before we can graduate from university. And I went, what? He said, yes, it can be anything. There's a whole range of things. Like, you can go around and, do gardening at the university, right? There's a whole range of things that you can actually do, but volunteering for athletic events, is one on the list that they can actually do. And he said, well, I'm graduating in a week's time, and he's still finishing off his volunteering. So if he doesn't finish it in time, he won't be graduating with us. So it was an eye-opener to me. I mean, I thought, great, there's all these people, but how are they getting them here? Well, okay, in that situation, they're sort of forcing them there, but maybe that idea later on, when they have some more time, will mean that, hey, I had a fun experience doing that, years ago. Why not go back and do it again? So they're sort of ingraining it into their being at a very early age in that respect, which I thought was excellent. So that was slightly off track in experiences wise, but the thing though that actually I will remember forever and ever is my experience at the World Championships in Doha. With the immense heat that everyone experienced during the day, we thought that actually having the walks just before midnight was going to be perfect. Well, not perfect, but the best situation. But the amount of lighting that was actually required so that the judges could actually see the athlete's feet and the contact with the ground made it, well, the humidity was basically the same as it was during the day. I don't think it was any better from my point of view, at least. And when you're out there doing a 50K that starts just before midnight, you're really feeling the whole brunt of the whole experience of that heat. It was extremely memorable. And that's putting it nicely, but it's something that I will remember. And it was, extremely memorable. It's fun. I didn't ever expect that I'd be in these places having these experiences, and now I do have something to look forward to. As with everyone, when COVID came along and killed everything, fingers crossed, Zoe was fortunate to go to the Olympics. Fingers crossed, I'll be fortunate to go to the World Championships in Oregon next year. So I'm looking forward to that and hoping that COVID will not cause any problem for myself getting to that event. But COVID, apart from delaying that sort of thing, it's actually delaying the exams. So they won't be on next year. They've put them back a year because we haven't been able to have all the international competition. So they're delaying the exams for the walk judges as well. So,
my. Chris Watt wanted to ask you about your safety. You were overseas at some of these events.
Okay, well, when I suppose there's two levels of events. There are the levels of events that are totally organised by, World Athletics or like the Youth Olympics. And so they're in an area where you think you're going to be more looked after in that sense, but because you're just a small little cog in a big production, you're often left to yourselves. So the walk judges go off and look after ourselves. And when I was in Buenos Aires, we actually went and saw Evita's grave and a few other things, and came back to the hotel and were talking, and the concierge said, "Oh, you didn't go there, did you? You should not have gone there at all." And it sort of really made us concerned about where we went and what we did. So that was concerning after the fact that we did it. But when the events that I've gone to in China, we've been extremely well looked after, and we've had either the Chinese Athletics Association interpreter there or individual interpreters, and we've been taken around and shown, places of interest as well as the competition, obviously. But so yeah, that was Buenos Aires was the one place that I did actually feel not safe after the fact. But yeah, so it didn't seem concerning when it was happening, but afterwards I thought maybe I should have looked around a little bit more before I'd actually agreed to to go and see the things that we saw. But you sort of think, well, you won't be back here again, but you do want to stay alive and healthy. So there is a balance.
Well, thank you very much, Kirsten. Anyone else, any more questions before we say thank you and goodbye? Well, thank you so much. As I said previously, I have really known nothing about walks. I've been involved in the 50Ks in Melbourne, but other than that, I've really known nothing about them. So this has been really interesting for me, and I'm sure it's been so interesting for other people, reinforcing the knowledge that some of the other judges will have had, and maybe interesting some more people in becoming walk judges, which would be an excellent result. So thank you so much. It was most informative and really interesting. Sorry. And your experiences at the international competitions are fascinating. Good luck in Oregon. It will be another fantastic experience for you, no doubt, that we'll enjoy hearing about after you've been there. And thank you to Andrea for organising it. And good night to everyone. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And I hope to see you all next year.
Yes, Merry Christmas to everyone and Happy New Year as well. Thank you for listening, and any other questions or queries, please just send me an email. My details are there, or I'm sure Andrea can pass them on to you. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. And
thanks, Kirsten.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kirsten. Excellent. Thank you very much. Happy Christmas to everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Happy
Christmas.
Thank you, Kirsten. And yes, I will do it one day. Judge a race.
One day soon, I hope. Can we hold you to that?